Yeah, the connection between comedy and Hollywood is one of the worst ideas of all time. It would be like the connection of Alcoholics Anonymous and rock shows. Literally, like that's literally how bad it is of a connection. But the thing is, like, they offered that carrot up to us. They dangle that money carrot, that carrot of TV. Ooh, Derek, don't you want to be in the movies? Ooh, Derek, don't you want to host your own sitcom or be on a sitcom or host a late night talk show? Or
well, and isn't this what we were talking about at the top before you arrived? Is this is such a Hollywood thing of like, Andrew, we love you.
Yeah.
Let me guess how that conversation went.
Yeah.
Here's the money. But there's just one little thing. Could you just change who you are?
See, this is the thing with you. You're like, Hollywood doesn't care. And I'm like, we don't care. Me and my friends don't care. It's just a reality. We don't care.
Yeah.
None of us want to walk into a writer's room with people that couldn't make it as stand-ups.
Obviously, you know, Hollywood is very different than what we do.
Yeah.
So last Sunday, the Tom Brady Roast was live streamed on Netflix, and although in the past a lot of the roasts were mainly focused around celebrities and Hollywood, and because it was on TV, obviously it was more censored, this time I do think that Netflix did a very good job at changing things up a little bit, and even surprised everyone by having the entire Rogansphere on the show, on the roast, which I thought was interesting. And now that everything has settled and we have reactions from other comics, I thought it would be fun to review the entire event, but mainly focusing on Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, Tony Hinchcliffe, and Andrew Schultz, because that was a perfect opportunity for all of them to show everyone, but more specifically Hollywood, that they are in fact real comics and that they can hang with everyone that was up there. And well, some of them did it, and others failed horribly. Now, when I first saw that it was officially announced, I didn't think much of it. I thought it would be fun to watch, but my expectations were really low. Honestly, I thought that Andrew Schultz and Tony Hinchcliffe would have a mild set, that Bert Kreischer would find a way to embarrass himself, and then I really had hopes that Tom Segura would surprise everyone with some wild jokes, Louis C.K. on SNL style, but the complete opposite happened. Now, the whole event was about 3 hours long, which is really long, but I thought it was worth it. It was hosted by Kevin Hart, who did very well and was funny that night. The stage was divided into two sections, and on one side, you had the podcast comedians, and on the other side, you had the athletes, coaches, and Kevin Hart. Now, I do say podcast comedians because even Kevin himself at some point made a joke addressing the fact that they did promise a lot of celebrities, but instead they had horrible podcasters and then himself, which is obviously a joke, but that was the angle that everyone was taking, which is that they were not real comics and that no one knew who they were. So clearly no one knew exactly what to expect, and it did seem like Kevin Hart wasn't too familiar with the comics and wasn't expecting too much. But also even Andrew Schultz at some point thought that the football players wouldn't be able to handle reading from the teleprompter and the whole thing being live streamed.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's It's live.
Yeah, buddy.
So you just you go for it. I think it's a horrible decision by Netflix.
Really? Why?
Yeah, I mean I've told them this. It's just like with roast, you're gonna have NFL players reading. Like that's never a good combo. So it's just like, why would you do this live? You film it, then edit it down to the best
1000%.
version, and then put it out. Me and Sam up somebody's joke because I saw a punchline, and me and Sam started going, "Oh, that shit's good," and he hadn't even said it yet.
Yeah.
I forget who it was, but Sam and I laughing at this shit because we reading ahead.
Yeah, bro, there's a part that's so funny. Tony's doing a joke, and you just see Bert behind him mouthing the words to the joke as he's saying it. I was dying laughing. I was like, oh, I forget there's a prompter.
That was Gronk the entire time.
No, he's mouthing.
Reading in his head, but mouthing the words.
The first ones to perform were Jeff Ross, quarterback Drew Bledsoe, and then Nikki Glacier came on, who absolutely destroyed it. I mean, she got a standing ovation after she was done, which was deserved. And in a way, she did potentially set up the next comics up for failure because of how well she did. However, when she was done, another football player, Randy Moss, came on and also did very well, which I think is important because once again, so far up to the point, all of the athletes, they did very well, which was the complete opposite of what Andrew Schultz was expecting. And then Kim Kardashian came on, which was pretty funny because she was booed by like 80% of the crowd, but obviously she still delivered her lines and even took a shot at the comics, basically saying that she would have wrote something for them, but she doesn't know who they are, which is pretty funny. But then when she was done, about an hour into the whole thing, Jeff Ross introduces both Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, And man, this is when the whole thing takes a huge turn, okay? Keep in mind that this is what they said, or this is what Bert Kreischer said on their last episode of Two Bears, One Cave.
Wait, how do you write a bit, Tom?
How do I write a bit?
Yeah.
Do you write on stage?
Because
Like
he drops bits that he's not telling bits in this special, the one he was getting ready for, that are my favorite things he's ever said. And I go, take it out of the podcast. It's so good. Leave it, put it in. And he's not telling those.
Cool. Oh, that's great. Yeah, you find moments on the show, I'm sure.
That's why our podcast isn't that good. It's because if we say something really funny, we take it out and we use it, we sell it to Netflix.
That's smart, but that's a benefit.
No offense. That's why you guys like other podcasts. They put all their bits in the podcast.
No way.
If it's good, we take it out.
That's true.
Now, look, you guys got the best art, though,
And so because of that, it's so wild to hear Bert Kreischer talk about how they sell their best bits to Netflix, and then they go on to have the worst performance of the night. It's crazy. And the thing is that at this point, it does make me sound like a hater because every single thing we cover about them is negative. So it made me wonder if maybe I was being biased on this one, because to be fair, they didn't bomb. They got laughs the whole time, and the material was decent, but the performance and the execution was horrible. It was trash. It was actually pretty tough having to rewatch it over and over again to make this video. And once again, if you want to be very charitable to both Tom and Bert Kreischer, you could say that they're not known for being roasters. They're not actors, and I don't believe they've ever done a roast in the past like the others have. And also, maybe there is a chance that they didn't want to be there, and because of that, they didn't put that much effort into that.
The roast was crazy.
The roast was really fun.
That was, man.
I'm so glad I didn't do it.
Yeah.
That whole ride over, when we were driving to it, I was like, thank God I'm not performing on this. It was so nerve-wracking. There's so many hot celebs.
There's so many hot celebs.
I'd be so afraid to perform in front of the hot celebs.
However, all of that goes out the window when you think about the fact that not only did Bert Kreischer say that they supposedly sell their best bits to Netflix, but also if you look back to Tom Segura's 69 Minutes, it was clearly a horrible attempt at him trying to make essentially an episode of television. So clearly they do want that, and they just failed at it. Once again, the material wasn't that bad. There were some funny jokes in there, but the choice to have both Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura do a PowerPoint presentation at a roast, it was wild.
My wife is a fan of Nikki Glaser. I got introduced to Nikki Glaser last night. What a performance. Andrew Schultz crushed. The Two Bears provided an incredible break, I do believe, in the middle of the action. It was Ron Burgundy showed up, Peyton showed up, Bill Belichick showed up. It was Randy Moss was out there. I mean, it was very, very, very well done. They should be taking a victory lap today.
It was very, very well done.
But also on top of that, they never made any jokes about anyone that was up there, which was very strange. Obviously, everyone else that was up there made jokes about everyone else, but not them. However, what I thought was very, very interesting was how the camera was only focused on Tom and Bert Kreischer for the entire time, and I believe only twice switched to a shot of Tom Brady. And again, that made me think that either one, no one was reacting to what they were saying, like no other athlete or comic was having a good reaction to show it on screen, or maybe because it was 1 hour into the event, maybe Tom and Bert Kreischer's set was used as a bathroom break, because when they were doing their set, a lot of people stood up and went to the bathroom. Even Andrew Schultz at some point accidentally almost walked into their set coming back from the restroom, and their whole bit was so bad that even their own friend, Pat McAfee, made an interesting comment about them.
You know, but Tony and me, we're best friends. I mean, we've been on the road together, like, I don't know, 150 shows somewhere around that range, probably more than that. You know, I watched him on the roast last night or Saturday night. God damn, dude. God damn.
That one he said about Sam J.
Oh, she hell gnaws the she hell gnaws.
Oh, hell gnaws it.
Oh my God. And the one about Bert.
Oh, he was going in.
The Bert's a king.
The Bert's a king. The Tiger King fucked the Liver King. It had a liver like Rodney King. Oh, bro. He's the GOAT. When it comes to that roast and shit, I think he the GOAT.
He's the GOAT.
I think he's the greatest.
Tony's the best.
Yep.
You know, I'm not going to say it, but there were some forces that were trying to limit him from his ability to shine.
They see it. They see he's coming for. They know he's coming for the title.
He's reckless, and that's what they're not. I think we're very fortunate today that we have guys like Chappelle and Attell and Shane and you and everybody and Tony. Schultze's killing it right now.
God.
Murdered on that roast.
That
oh
guy.
my God.
That dude.
Oh my God. He's so likable too. Even when he was all over Dana White, he's got a big smile on his face. He's laughing. Oh my God, he's funny. And he's a great person too, man. He's a great person, like a great human being.
I look at him like an actual big brother, man. That
He's
guy's
a beautiful
my guy.
person. I love him to death. But it's like we're real fortunate that we have all these people together.
But also, most people online and the majority of the comments do agree that the two Bears did have the worst performance of the night. And also the fact that no other comics are saying how good they did or saying anything about their sets says a lot, because when they talk about Tony, when they talk about Andrew, when they talk about all of them, they talk about how they killed it and how well they did. But when it comes to Tom and Bert, they just completely skip over that conversation. And funny enough, their set is now available on YouTube, which was absolutely crushed with dislikes and some wild comments. And so based on that, if Tom and Bert Kreischer let their show, their Two Bears One Cave podcast, completely tank just so that they can do mild material on Netflix, it's insane. And also the final piece of evidence that in my opinion proves that they didn't have a good set is that whenever someone would finish, Kevin Hart always made a joke or somehow addressed it and then moved on to introduce the next person. But when Bert Kreischer and Tom finished, Kevin Hart said nothing. The only thing he said was wow, 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 and said something about having a good night, and then rushed into the crowd and started waking everyone up. Now, I'm kidding about the last part, but he did go into the crowd, didn't mention anything about their set, and then tried doing some crowd work. It was pretty wild, but that kind of reminded me of what it was like watching 69 Minutes, because it was also horrible. But yeah, now let's finally move on to Tony Hinchcliffe.
But Jeff, you hired him to write for the roast, the big roasts, right? On Comedy Central.
Tony, when I met Tony, this was a long time ago now. He was a door guy at the Comedy Store, right, Tony?
Yep.
And he was a little skinny, broke door guy.
Broke.
And but he was like the roast whisperer. He would tell me little roast jokes. And I mean, how did it spark initially? Do you remember exactly? Tony, we wound up writing on Comedy Central's The Burn and a lot of the roasts and side projects, and we became writing cohorts all the time, and eventually we took our show on the road up to Canada. We did a nationwide tour of America and of Canada.
Right? I wasn't known as a roaster then. Now I'm known as a roaster, and you're known as a very out-of-the-box, silly comedian with great acting chops. Fun. Since making fun of you, I've written on, the last, 7 Comedy Central roasts. One of the main writers in a room filled with writers, but pretty effective guy at getting huge jokes in a script. And Roast Battle took off, and I wrote a roast show on Comedy Central hosted by Jeff Ross for 2 seasons, and all that happened after making fun of you.
Now, even though Tony does have a lot of experience when it comes to roast and writing for that, I think he still deserves a lot of credit for how he performed. And now looking back, his introduction was a cool idea. But when I first saw it, when I first watched it, I thought, oh man, no way they're about to do the whole thing Kill Tony style. But he did pull it off. It was actually pretty cool. He did his Kill Tony introduction and then pulled Dana White's name out of a bucket. Obviously they were sitting together at the same table in the crowd. Dana White did 60 seconds, which was pretty good. It was funny. And I thought it really summarized what Kill Tony was in a cool way. And it gave the show a lot of exposure. And then Tony absolutely destroyed. Now, I've said this before, and I've seen Tony Hinchcliffe live doing stand-up, and I liked the stand-up. It wasn't that bad. However, when it comes to the show, to Kill Tony, I still stand by what I said on that last video. It is way overrated. And the only reason, it's no different than what it was back then. And the only difference now is that it has Joe Rogan's massive audience at the mothership. But anyways, back to Tony. He absolutely destroyed. He went in on everyone. Roasted Andrew Schultz, roasted Jeff Ross. He made a joke about Nikki Glacier's set, which was very quick, and then he did the joke about Bert Kreischer, which was also really good. And the funny thing is that the whole time that Tony was telling the joke, you could see Bert Kreischer in the background mouthing every word of the joke, essentially reading the teleprompter, which is pretty funny. But also on top of that, Andrew's reaction to the joke was absolutely insane. I mean, he did what he does on Flagrant, but times 10. But yeah, Tony was definitely top 2. It's between him and Nikki. And it was also cool to see Kevin Hart giving him his credit, because it did seem like he wasn't familiar with Tony or the Kill Tony podcast. And then once he saw the performance, there was no denying that it was good comedy. And he even said that, which I think is cool. But yeah, once Tony was done, the next one to come on was a football player. And compared to Tom and Bert, he looked like a professional public speaker. But yeah, once Gronk was done, then it was Andrew Schultz's turn.
The second they brought that TV screen out for Bert and Tom, I saw a couple of the football players leave, and I was like, I'm out. No disrespect, Bert and Tom, but I got to pee.
Yeah.
Left. Apparently, there's a shot of me walking back.
Yeah. That's the best part. That's the point.
I pulled the Gronk. I was like, can they see me? That was the thing that I found most tricky about this, which is like, how do you? It's not even stay in the moment, but like be in the moment from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, do I acknowledge? Like, I want to just go, hey, we're in the moment here.
Yeah.
And then do the set instead of being like, here are the jokes. But at the same time, we're also like 3 hours into this.
And to a live telecast.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, what can I do? But yeah, those moments are good. And shout out Nikki Glazer, absolutely to Molly.
Yeah, she ripped.
Like, I was like blown away.
Yeah.
She was so good. If you haven't seen it yet.
The rhythm was like perfect.
And then Tony
holy Tony.
Amazing. Like they just they were just so fucking good. Like if you haven't seen it yet, it is worth it to watch them.
Yeah.
Like they just were just masterful. It was great.
And then Bledsoe was good.
So here's the thing.
He surprised me.
What makes or breaks a roast is not the comedians.
The non-comedians?
If the non-comedians deliver, it's a good roast.
Oh, dude. Non-comedian. Edelman.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit.
So here's the thing. They took it serious. Edelman was working it out at the Comedy Store.
Really?
Like Drew Bledsoe hit me up afterwards. He's like, dude, we were watching a lot of your stuff and some other guys. Like they were actually studying
like game film.
Yeah, they don't know how to get out of
crazy.
Awesome.
But I think that's what happens when you get athletes. They're like, oh, the way to be good at something is to repeat it over and over again and watch people that are good at
practice and prepare, and they can be good.
And funny enough, I was actually hoping that Andrew Schultz would be the one to address Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura's horrible performance. But to be fair, he did go to the restroom during their set, so he did have the perfect excuse. But everyone else just completely ignored it and didn't say anything about it. Didn't say anything good or bad about it. Now, when it comes to Andrew Schultz, even though he did go last, he absolutely crushed it as well. Which to me, Andrew Schultz was the one that shocked me the most, because even though I did find him through his crowd work special, I never really saw his stand-up comedy as that good. So the standards were never that high. And on top of that, I did see him live recently, and his live tour material wasn't the best. And so because of that, I wasn't really expecting that much, but he did very, very well. And in my opinion, I think he should lean more into that style of comedy, rapid fire jokes, instead of going the Bert Kreischer route and making the whole act about his family and going through personal things. And also, we have mentioned this in the past, but I always thought that Andrew Schultz was nowhere near as bad as Tom and Bert Kreischer were, and I think this pretty much confirms that. However, funny enough, it does seem like Schultz is not that good at taking jokes, because someone asked him what he thought was the best joke that someone said about him, and everyone stayed quiet and then quickly backtracked and said that there were none, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Any other reactions
I want to
saw? Like, what?
Talk about MSG, dude.
Oh, I have a question. I have a question.
Yes.
What was the best joke you thought against you?
Oh, that's good.
There weren't a ton, I'll be honest.
Yo, I think, to be honest, I think what everybody thought was, oh, everybody's going to make fun of his haircut.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do what everybody does.
But yeah, in conclusion, it was a pretty good roast, and I think it was a good move by Netflix. They did seem to let a lot of things slide, and it will be interesting to see what they do in the future. But it is also funny that now that finally Andrew Schultz is invited to a roast or something done by Netflix, he now says that cancel culture and all that woke stuff is dead. But just a few years ago, that was his entire marketing. But also, I think it shows to everyone that the whole Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura hate is not just because they're successful and everyone is a hater and a poor. I think they really exposed themselves and the difference between real comics and comics that actually put a lot of effort into what they do, and comics like Bird and Tom Segura, who are just winging it on everything they do and still selling out and still selling crazy tickets. It's wild. And also, I do wonder what those performances will mean for future projects. I mean, Tom did say that he was working on something for Netflix, I believe, which I don't know how that will come out. But definitely, Tony and Andrew Schultz are the ones that benefited the most from that. And I wonder if their egos will shoot through the roof, because on the last episode of Flagrants, Andrew Schultz was already out of control and wild. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. Dislike if you didn't like the video. But that is all we have for today. See ya.